Hello everybody, it's me, Jeremiah McRecording, and today we're talking about chords, specifically the chord files. This thing right here. This is a all analog hardware Dawless music theory tool that I bought a while ago and I've been meaning to do a video on, and today we're going to do it. We're going to talk about the chord files, we're going to see how chords work, and we're going to play some chords. I think that's going to be a big part of it. Before we do that though, I have a fun story to tell you. I actually recorded this whole video last weekend and released it to patrons. I learned via one of my patrons who was a vibraphone player in high school and therefore had a lot of experience with chord notation that I had been playing the wrong chords for over half the video. Basically, it made the video unreleasable. I could not put it out. The mistake that I made here was that I was playing the non-dominant version of the secondary dominant. I was playing the version of the 7th chord that was in key for the tonic of that chord, but not for the key that the whole thing was in. So I just messed up. I messed up hard as heck. I felt really dumb. But I learned something. I learned what secondary dominants are, and we will get into that as soon as we get into the chord files, which I think we're going to do right now. So before we start playing, let's take a look at the device itself and talk about how it works and how it expects us to move through chords. The first step is to pick from one of the main chords right here. These are all in the key that you have chosen, and I'm going to be working in C because I'm very comfortable with C. Then we can go up to any of these secondary dominants. We cannot choose a second secondary dominant after that. We have to go down to the chord that it is connected to with an arrow. We can also go down to one of the modal interchanges, and these are going to have accidentals in them that create some very interesting tension. So we have things like E flat, A flat, F, and B flat. And if any of you know, the key of C does not have any of those accidentals in there. So very interesting. And then we can go back up via the arrow. So we just basically kind of go up and down and see how things sound together. On the back, we have these, admittedly, let's see, very difficult to see, but useful extra pieces of information. For each one of our chords, we have the black keys which show the chord shape. So if you don't know how a chord is shaped on a keyboard, you can choose from this side and learn. And I believe there's a guitar version of this. So if you're a guitar player, you can pick that up. Okay, so we have the black keys on this part, which represent the chord. And then the little tiny gold markings represent notes that you can play as part of like your melody if you want to make a melody in the chord that you're currently in. Which, I don't know, it's a good guide, right? Like if you have no idea where to start with what notes to play, either from a chord perspective or a melody perspective, here you go. I'm going to be sticking to our friend on this side because I, at least in some part, know chord shapes and I want to just focus on how the chords go together. Okay? So let's get playing. All right, well, here we are with our piano, which is Noir from Contacts, Date of Instruments Contact. And we have our chord files, and we have a program called Synestia, which is just demonstrating what I'm playing on the piano and will tell us some chord names as we go through. So let's start with the main chords and listen to what they sound like. We have C major, A minor, F major, D minor, G major, and E minor. And we can mix between any of these. So maybe you want to start off just mixing some of those chords. And you don't have to start on C, which is our tonic. If you're writing in a particular key, in this case C, the first note of the scale is your tonic. And we have our second, our third, our fourth, our fifth, our sixth, our seventh, and our octave. And within lies all music that you've ever heard. So we can start on C. And I like to spread my chords, so if I just play a triad, it's kind of boring, but I like to kind of spread it like this because it gives me some nice undercurrent to my sound. And sometimes I won't even play the whole triad on the top because I don't need to. I've got my tonic down here. So we can start on C, maybe move to F, and then A, and then G. And that's a chord progression, a very common one. 1, 4, 6, 5. And if you want to get cheeky, you can introduce something called a suspension. A suspension can take two forms as far as I know. I got this right about the first video, Beato. So we have a fourth suspension, which is changing the third to the fourth. So in the key of C, that would be, here's our triad. If I take this note and I move it up, this is a sus4. If I move that note down, it's a sus2. Sus4s are wonderful to resolve to the major triad. And I find that sus2s like to resolve down, at least in this case, to the 5 or the G. So sus's are really, really wonderful ways to add a very consonant tension that you can easily turn into something more beautiful. And whenever I hit the 5th in a major chord as my last one, I always sus it before I go down because it just sounds nice. So that's starting on the tonic. What if we start away from the tonic? Let's start with E minor and see what we can do with that, okay? So this is E minor to G. I'll go back. I'm going to go A minor now. That's pretty nice. What about, let's try F to D minor. I don't really like that much. I don't think, F to E minor sounds a bit like a bridge of some kind. It wants to resolve. So you'll always have this desire to resolve down to the tonic or some form of the pure triad. That's generally what chords want to do. They want to resolve to what we consider these really consonant, harmonically pleasant sort of, expressions of the key. And those usually involve the tonic, the 5th, or the 4th, though the 4th does want to resolve. And the 5th is called the perfect 5th, and the 4th is called the perfect 4th, because they don't say anything about the key, meaning the mode of the scale we're in. So if I was in major and I played this, we wouldn't know. This could be, it's Schrodinger's chord, right? Because I could play an E natural and we'd be in C major, but if I play an E flat, we're in C minor. But these two don't change. Same thing with the 4th. Pretty neat, right? So your perfect 4ths and perfect 5ths are always going to be safe things to introduce across all of your chords, meaning you don't always need to play the triad on top that it tells you here. And I waited until pretty long into the last video to show this, but I want to show it early off because it's one of my favorite ways to play these more simple chords in order to make them more interesting. So let's say we start on C. I have the C major triad up here, and I have our C down here as an octave in the tonic. What happens if I start doing a chord progression, but I do not change this up here? Well, let's give it a try. So C, I'm going to move to F now, and then A. Isn't that nice? And then back to resolving. So what you do when you play this, on top of all those pedal notes that you're changing down at the bottom, you are recontextualizing these three notes, which start as our major triad, into new relationships with the chord underneath. For instance, when we play F, we have the perfect 5th, we have a 7th, and then we have a 2nd, or supertonic, which is a beautiful chord. If I go to A, we have minor 3rd, perfect 5th, and minor 7th, which is very interesting. And then with our G, we have, there's our 4th suspension, 7th, and a tonic. So all of these different relationships start bringing out different colors in the way that the chord that you're playing on the bottom or the chord that you're inferring on the bottom talk to each other. And I showed this off in a video a long time ago called Walking the Triad, which I'll link in the description. But basically, if you're just playing the triad as it's written, you're not really getting the most out of chords. And the cool thing about what we just did is that you actually have to move your hands less because you don't have to jump around to all the chords. And there are other ways to express that, and that's with inversions. This is another point that I got wrong in the first video, so I'm not going to actually explain it from a music theory standpoint. I'm just going to show it off. So when we play this right here, we are playing the sort of normal version of the chord. It's a C major chord, so C, E, G. But we can also play this chord in a different order, like that, or like that. So these are inversions. And there's our root. And when you look at chords inverted, you start to notice that they start to shape themselves like chords that look really similarly. For instance, this version of C major, if I move one note, becomes E minor. Neat, huh? It's also the Twin Peaks song. If I do that down here, what do I have to move? Well, I gotta move this. And now I have an E minor inversion. So when you're playing the keyboard and you're looking at your chords, move one note and see what happens, and then do it again. Oh, that's interesting. What could I do with this? Well, if I move this down to A, I either get an A7 or I could choose to play an F. Isn't that nice? Something in the way she moves does something to me that's not like any other person. I don't know the lyrics to this. Anyways, just have fun with it. It's really, really cool. Okay, so we've explored a bit the main chords. Let's explore the secondary dominants, and I'll explain what I got wrong and how what I got wrong actually led to, in some cases, something more interesting. So the secondary dominants are our friends up here. And the difference between what I did and what a secondary dominant is something I will explain right now. So let's start with G7. So when I see G7, I think of a seventh chord that starts on G, a major seventh chord. And what that would be is G, B natural, D, F sharp. Now, this major seventh is the key to all good music, I swear to God, at least in terms of like what a lot of people like to write that I deal with in lessons. If you like lo-fi hip hop, if you like jazz, just add that seventh on there, baby. It sounds so much better. So let's listen to a seventh chord with and without the seventh. So there's a C. Let's add that seventh. Are you ready? Oh, it's beautiful. Sevenths also give you a really wonderful opportunity to do more of that inversion moving because you've added another really interesting color to the mix. So for instance, if I do this and then I go to E minor, I'm now just playing the triad on top. So, yeah, a cool relationship, right? So I got that wrong. I played this beautiful G7 and then went to C. And then of course I'm like, I'm going to seventh that too. Everything's a seventh. Everything's a drum. But I was wrong. It's a dominant, which means it stays in key. It stays in C. So that would make this, instead of that note, which is not in the key of C, I need to play F. And this makes this chord a lot cheesier. So let's go from C to G7. Okay, well, that sounds like some hymnal or traditional. I don't know. I just don't like it. It sounds not part of the music that I write. But the other sevenths dominants in this are all things I use to death. So let's explore the E7 dominant. That would be, fuck yes, C7. We already talked about A7 dominant. Hell yeah. D7. Sure. And B7. Not so much, but still some really good stuff in there. Basically, I play seventh chords. I was playing dominant seventh chords in almost all my music because, I keep that triad going. So like the A Dom 7 is exactly that thing we did earlier where we played the C major triad over our root. So hopefully this is starting to make a little bit of sense. So let's try moving back and forth between some of our major chords in the main area and our secondary dominants. We'll start on F, and how about C7? Yeah, that's beautiful. Now here's where I think that this chord files is wrong. It's saying don't mix secondary dominants. Screw you. I want to go from C7 to A7. Like, why can't I do that? Don't tell me not to do that. I don't want to have to go down to D minor from here. Like, so there is a little bit of in here. Like, it says don't mix those. But I say try because I think it's wrong about that. You might not always get what you want, but you might get exactly what you need. So here is a G major and A7. It's all right. Let's go to C7 from here. That's nice. And then we'll go to A. And so that's actually not a chord it says that I can do. It says if I play a C7, I have to go to F major. And it's nice, but I don't have to. So take it with a grain of salt, right? Like you can do more than what it's telling you right here. This is F to E Dom 7. Whoops. That's E Dom 7. Beautiful. I hope this is making sense to you so far, because now we're going to start editing the modal interchanges. So we've talked about key a little bit. We have C major. There's our scale. Now, you will notice there are no black keys as part of the C major scale, right? Well, that's about to change. I mean, the key's not going to change, but what we're going to do with it is about to change. So what we're going to do here is start introducing the modal interchanges. I think we can go down to any four of, yeah, we can. Let's go ahead and give that a try. Let's start on C and go to E flat. Ooh, mysterious. So a lot of really beautiful tensions because we've gone extremely out of key. And we have, in fact, introduced one of the most dissonant things you can, in that we have flatted the seventh and our major third. So major triad, and then we go ahead and flat our third and our seventh. So, but they're both major. So it's just this really interesting longing, and it really reminds me of like fantasy soundtracks and stuff like that. Like this chord progression. Feels like, oh, the elves are here, right? And you may or may not notice that I did just play a C major seventh before going into that. It's just more colorful. And according to this, I couldn't do that. So screw you, chord files. I'll do what I want. Okay, let us now experiment with this a bit more. Let's try C, and then F, and then let's go up to A flat major. So C, and then this is gonna be spicy. And then G. That's cool, right? And then E flat. All right. F. And then B flat major. Technically, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to go to G. So let's try that. So F, and then we can mix these chords. So we'll go to B flat. Then G. Okay, pretty neat. D minor. A minor. Ooh, that's nice. Oh, this is in A minor 7th, sorry. Ooh, that's also really nice. So what we've done here is done a minor to major interchange as well, which is always really, really, really pretty. That's really pretty, right? This is where the strength of the chord files lives, is where you can sit and stare at this and be like, here is what I get to work with. Here is my palette of chords that I can choose from. And if I sort of break the rules that it lays out just a little bit now and then, or don't feel like I'm completely like beholden to them, I can get some very, very beautiful and interesting stuff. And the degree to which you will get more interesting stuff out of this is the degree to which you are willing to experiment. Like doing these sort of different chord shapes, inversions, understanding that like just because it tells you that you need to move to a certain chord doesn't mean you have to move to the first position of it. You can use an inversion to make it more interesting. You can use a holdover from the previous chord to add a nice little bit of consonance. We talked about 7th chords. But another really beautiful chord is the 9th, which adds the supertonic here, and you can combine those. So, oh, I guess this is an add 9, and this is a C major 9. So we have our template to work from, which is our chord files here. We can choose chords to play in sort of the order that it suggests. We can break out of that order. We can use inversions. We can spice it up with our own little suspensions and stuff like that. And then when you feel comfortable enough, you can start introducing melodies on top. So that's the chord files. There is another version. It's this one. They call it Dark Harmony, and it's in minor and involves some chords that I'm not familiar with, like Neapolitan chords. I thought Neapolitan was an ice cream, but here we are. It's not. I hope that this was enlightening to you. I also pray to God I did not get any of the music theory wrong this time, because holy moly, that was a blow to my ego. I was like, God, if this thing came out, it'd be a frickin' bloodbath. But hey, I got out of it this. G major to C major 7th. I really appreciate you watching. I'm going to play some piano while the little cat bobs its head, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I love you. Take care.